Welcome to War Games. We will get you ready for your next sales opportunity. Are you looking to win the sales battle? You have joined the right team. Here on the War Games Group, we take the strategies and mindsets from the most successful salespeople and share it with you. With our help, you won't have to fail your way to the top. When it comes to crossing the minefield of sales, step in the footprints of those that crossed before you. Prepare yourself for boot camp and beyond. It's time for War Games to begin.
Shall we play a game?
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming back over to another weekly War Games. I'm going to throw up our little VIP, Amy Lee, and our guest trainer today that I'm very excited for is Brant Menswar. Brant is a guy. I got to give you my personal history with Brant. So I go into a room with, our beloved friend, Robbie Cornelius, that everybody knows in the group. Robbie and I are in a clubhouse room when it first started. And then out of nowhere, in pops the guy with the hair. And I think you know who I'm talking about in this one. Welcome, Colonel. But all of a sudden, there's this picture down there, and Robbie and I are brand new to the app. We have no clue what's going on. So we're like, Brant, tell us a little bit about yourself. And he jumps in, starts sharing about what he does and how he goes through things. And I am like mesmerized. And literally, as we're talking, he says, you jump over to my website, go take this thing. And I'm like, but where's it coming from? He goes, it's from my book. It's from my book, Black Sheep. And I was like, dude, we need to talk about this. So I immediately jumped on Amazon, bought the book, had it come back, right? Got the book. But I went in, filled out the stuff. I love everything about this whole entire concept. Okay. And then, me, everybody knows me by now. I stalked the heck out of him in the DMs until he answered me. Right. And so you could tell by his face. He's like, he did. He just kept sending me stuff. Yeah. Right. Assumed rapport came into play. I was like, I got this. And so we went through and we became friends on there, going through some, life stuff as we do. Yep. And then I just was like, Brant, I need you to come talk to the group because the basis behind your book is so unbelievable and it's so basic and we understand it. Mm-hmm. But when you stop and realize it's so against anything we've been taught. And so to me, I'm like, okay, I could go through and say, let me tell you guys my impression, but it's not going to be good. But let's get into our hellos from the people that are out there right now. We got Larry Schneider is there. Natalie Essman popped in. Hello, Natalie. Scott Ricard is here. Edward McKay. What's up, fam? We're here. Miss Farha is here for me and all of you guys is what it says. So you're all included. So, but looking at this one, I'm going to throw out, I already put this in there because I know where it's going, but you click that link in the thing and it's going to take you right over to Amazon. You can buy Brant's book. But again, I'm okay with anybody selling anything. And, I'm not going to bring anybody on who isn't going to give you value. But what I want to do is I want to say, Brant is the guy who talks to corporations, the big keynote speakers, let me go talk to the soda companies and the internet companies and the cell phone companies, right? And anybody that's out there that goes, I need to make sure my people can level up. This is what they do. They call Brant. And so I'm thoroughly excited and can't wait to cut up all the video and grab some great nuggets out of this and put it together. But Brant, welcome.
Thank you.
You can tell I'm excited because I don't normally gush on like this with everybody.
You didn't do this when it was my week at all.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Group, it's fine. Whatever.
It's listen, it's an honor, and we had a fast connection and just sort of immediate kinship, and so I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that you'd have me on, and hopefully we can grab some nuggets today that help everybody who's out there watching.
Awesome. I love it. Let me go over here. Let me jump over. I'm going to scoot over. There we go.
Okay.
Now we're here. Look, even Luigi's calling me out. Total fanboy today. But Amy Lee has fans, so we're good too. Leave that up there. But
Awesome.
all right. So Brant, share with us a little bit so we know what's going down.
Sure. So I think in sort of prepping for today and thinking about what we could talk through, I think everybody, from what I know of Joe, everybody really is, you have to be focused on high performance, right? So what's the highest performance that we can achieve? Where does it come from? How does it work? And so what I thought I would do is sort of walk us through a couple of different things. Like one of the things that I would say is what drives high performance, right? So I would love to know if you'd put it in the chat. What do you think drives high performance? I'd love to know what your opinion is on it, because I have some strong opinions on what drives high performance. So in the chat, go ahead and drop that for me. What do you think drives high performance? It'd be interesting to see. So Amy says self-actualization. I love that. Yeah, absolutely. I can get down with that jam. I think that there's a lot of truth in that statement. I think the interesting thing, for me, when I talk to companies about high performance, what does that actually look like? What is it? How do we achieve it? The answer that I end up coming with to look at each time I'm talking to an organization lands in this discussion. The answer is in this discussion. And you might be looking at this going, what the hell is that? What am I looking at right now? I just finished this 12-week mastermind class with just an absolute, one of my most brilliant friends on the planet. Her name is Tamsin Webster. She has something called the Red Thread. And the red thread is how you craft a narrative to really connect. How do you tell a story? How do you express an idea to get somebody to care? And it starts with telling everybody the goal. So that's what I've done. You all want to have the highest performance you can possibly have, right? But the challenge is what we're looking at right now, right? Some of you put in rabbit, some of you put in rabbit duck. She calls this the duck bunny, right? This is the duck bunny challenge. And so when we talk about high performance, I will tell you that the challenge begins with everybody thinking that we have to address behavior or change behavior to reach high performance. But what I want to tell you is that it has nothing to do with behavior. It has everything to do with our values. It's our values that drive high performance. And so when we talk about that, I have to tell you that not only is this a duck bunny problem, it's one of the rare, dreaded double duck bunny issues, right? And that's where we have to talk about when you realize that values are what drive high performance. The second challenge is we expect people to adopt values that aren't theirs and care for them like their own, rather than finding ways to connect values so that we can use what matters most to us to amplify what matters most to others. And so why does that matter? Well, I have found over the years and the companies that I have worked with, so whether that's been Netflix or Verizon or Microsoft or St. Jude's or you name it, Hilton. There's been so many companies I've really had an incredible opportunity to work with. I've noticed they've shared really three traits, right? So high performing organizations, to me, share three specific things. They actually, first of all, share purpose, right? They share purpose. And when we think about purpose, we need to think about a little bit what that really means, right? So they are united and connected in purpose. That's really what drives.
I'm just impressed with your hand and the way you jumped back. I'm like, whatever app this is, I need it. You just went to, here's an overhead camera of me writing on a piece of paper. Amy was writing down, so she missed that. But
so we have purpose right here. So we have purpose. The second part of this is really, they are fantastic at collaboration, right? So if we want high performance, these organizations are united in purpose. They have a focused, driven collaboration. And then they have this enduring resiliency, right? So here are the three sort of key traits of high performing organizations. And so if you want to be a high performing salesperson, there's no difference. You still have to have these three things to drive you. You have to be driven by purpose. You have to be a phenomenal collaborator, and you have to have an enduring resiliency to get by the bazillion no's you hear before you find that person to say yes, right? And so if we're going to talk about it in that way, it brings me to a buddy of mine. His name is Jim Trick. Jim is has a very successful life coach practice up in Marblehead, Massachusetts. And several years ago, Jim decided he was going to take 6 weeks off of work and simply drive around the United States to all the places he's never been. So he drove down to Florida to see me. I live in Cocoa Beach area. And after that, he started to head west. And so he heads west and he stops in a place called Tyler, Texas. And in Tyler, Texas, there is something called a big cat rescue, right? So this is a place where somebody thinks it's cute to buy a baby tiger. And then 6 months later, they go, oh shit, I own a baby. I have a tiger, and this tiger eats $300 a day worth of meat. And now I don't know what to do. And so they give up the tiger to the big cat rescue because they can't afford to take care of it anymore. And so Jim happens to know somebody who works there. So they give him the opportunity to be an employee for a day. And so Jim shows up and he goes to work and he starts taking care of these tigers, and he's feeding these tigers in their cages, and he's, reaching through the cage and scratching them. And he's a life coach. He's Mr. Positivity. So he's speaking life into these tigers, right? You are an amazing creature. Oh, you're so powerful. And he spends his whole day going from cage to cage, and he gets to sort of the end of the day and he looks at his friend and he goes, well, is that it? And she says, well, we still have Pepe. And he says, well, who's Pepe? And so she reaches and points up to this hilltop. And up at the top of the hill is this 450-pound African male lion. And she says, that's Pepe. We try to get him to come when we call his name, but he ignores us. He only comes when he sees the bucket of food. And so Jim, being the guy he is, goes, look, I'm a life coach. Let me take care of this, right? So he yells up to Pepe.
Tigers love
right?
life coaches.
They love life coaches. Yeah. Every life coach I've ever met, same amount of swagger, right? So he's like, hey, Pepe. Pepe could give two what, right? He's like, whatever. So again, he's like, Pepe again. So he gives one last try. He's like, Pepe, I came a long way. Come on down here. And very, very slowly, Pepe actually starts to stand up, and Pepe starts to stand up. Jim's eyes get the size of saucers, and he turns and he looks at his friend, and she's holding up the bucket of food, right? and so Pepe is now coming down to the fence, and Jim is getting very excited that he's going to get a chance to speak to feed this lion. So as Pepe comes close, Jim's like, oh, Pepe, look at you. You are this amazing. And before he can say anything, Pepe lunges at the fence, lets out this huge roar, and Jim basically soils himself in front of his friend. And, we've talked about it. And I believe that Jim learned to speak lion that day. And what Pepe was saying is this: look, I know I live behind this chain link fence, right? And I know that I drink my water out of that concrete trough and I eat my dinner out of that galvanized bucket. But make no mistake, I'm the king of the jungle. You see, when you know who you are, what really makes you you, your circumstances have very little impact over your life. And so when we talk about these high performing organizations and individuals, what I want to tell you is that the root of the three: purpose, collaboration, and resilience, is something that I call your black sheep values. I was 47 years old before somebody explained to me why farmers don't value black sheep like the rest of the flock. And when I heard the truth, it just rocked my world, because I have felt like a black sheep for a lot of my life. Right. And when we think of black sheep, we think of being an outcast, right? Of being sort of pushed aside, put away in some way, shape, or form. And what I'm here to tell you is that the reason that farmers don't value black sheep like the rest of the flock is because a black sheep's wool cannot be dyed. Every black sheep is in effect 100% authentically original. When I heard that, I'm like, that is literally my life's goal. I just want to be that 100% unique, authentic creation that I know I was meant to be. And so when we talk about black sheep values, what I mean by that is these are what I like to call your flock of five. These are the non-negotiable values that no matter how much someone wants to try to influence or change you, they simply won't be moved like a black sheep's wool. So when you discover what those black sheep values really are, what it actually does for you is it gives you this level of self-awareness that you've never had in your entire life, right? That's what your flock of five actually do for you. They give you this level of self-awareness where you start to understand what truly makes you you. Now, there are lots of different ways that you can discover what your black sheep values actually are. You can take the Maslow route, right? Where you talk about or go back over the course of your life in your head and you look for what he would call peak experiences, both good and bad, and start to extract what came out of those and how they shaped and formed what you believe and what you truly care about in your life. But that takes a lot of patience, a lot of courage, a lot of vulnerability. And just to be perfectly honest with you, most of us don't want to do it. So we developed an assessment, an online assessment that helps you dip your toe into the values pool, right? The idea was if I can get you started to have the conversation, maybe you'd be willing to go a little bit deeper. And so when the book came out, we released an online assessment that you'll see on the ticker down there that comes through worksheet at worksheet.findyourblacksheep.com. It's actually going to present you with 125 commonly held personal core values. And it's going to say, what we want you to do is in this really quick knee-jerk reaction, don't think about it. Just read through these. And any word that really resonates with you, I want you to go ahead and select it. So you're going to read through things like achievement, success, empathy, right? All these different sorts of words. And you're going to simply select the ones that really speak to you. What we know after 4 or 5 months and over 5,000 people taking this assessment is that the average person selects at least 30 different things that are really important to them. So my first question in that case is always, tell me, what does crushing depression and anxiety feel like? Because you've set yourself up for failure. There is no way you can honor 30 different things in your life on a daily basis, but you're going to try and you're going to fail. And then you're going to feel shame and you're going to feel anxiety and you're going to feel depressed and you're going to start to invite all those feelings in that gives you that level of imposter syndrome that makes it really difficult to perform at any level, forget about at the highest level. And so the idea here is we got to get to the truth, because what's important are simply distractions from your non-negotiables. So we take those words, those 30, 40, 50 words maybe that you selected, and we group them together by likeness. So you say, achievement and success, accountability, that goes in one bucket. And then empathy and sympathy and caring for others, that goes in another bucket. And before you know it, all of the words that you said were really important to you are in 5 different buckets. You get to pick the one word from each bucket that you can't live without. That is what non-negotiable means. No. It means if somebody asked you to do something that violated it, the answer is no. And it's not no with guilt. It's no because the answer is no. And I don't feel guilty. I don't feel bad. It simply is what it is. It violates one of the things that are my non-negotiables, and that's why I won't do it. When we get to that, that is your initial flock of 5. That's this level of self-awareness. When you have that level of self-awareness, it allows you to start to live your life and make decisions with deliberate intention. And there is a massive, massive difference between being intentional and living your life with deliberate intention. Being intentional is like setting the GPS in your car to tell it where you want to land, right? But living with deliberate intention means you know every twist and turn you are going to make before you get there. It's planned. If you think about your GPS for just a second, if you veer off the path, if you decide, you know what, I got to take a bathroom break or I want to go grab a coffee, and you veer off the path that your GPS set for you, what happens? it starts to yell at you. Whoa, 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 where you going? That's not the direction you said you wanted. Do you need us to reroute you? What? That's exactly what happens. And I need you to think about these black sheep values, because that's exactly what they do for you. When you veer off that path of where you want to go in your life, these values go, time out. You're not headed in the direction that you said you wanted to go. Either get back on track or get real that this is not one of your non-negotiable values. And you've got to figure out which is the truth in that scenario. So when you discover what these black sheep values are, they provide you these guide rails to keep you in the zone to perform at the highest level without being distracted by things that are important to you in your life. There is a big difference between importance and non-negotiables. So this level of self-awareness allows us to live with deliberate intention. And when we live with deliberate intention and use these black sheep values, we end up developing a level of adaptability that simply hasn't existed up to that point. And that's really what allows us to pivot quickly in scenarios that might not be exactly how we planned, so that we can start to keep the level of performance where it needs to be. You see, when you don't decide what those black sheep values are, you start to try to find answers in the 40 or 50 things that you told yourself are really important. And that takes time, and time is money. And when you start to be distracted by all those things, you can't make a decision quickly. You end up missing out on opportunities because you're distracted by things that are not non-negotiables. So when we focus on only those 5 things, now you're able to actually react quickly. You're responding with deliberate intention. You're checking your values, going, you know what? I'm making decisions that are rooted in the 5 things that are non-negotiable to me, not on the 40 things that I'm distracting myself with that are important. So when we start to understand how that all works, it brings us back to this idea here of when we're adaptable, when we're using these black sheep values, it brings me back to these 3 traits of high performing companies and individuals. Our black sheep values allow us to choose our purpose. If you hear one thing from me today, what I want you to understand is this: we do not find purpose. And anyone that told you to go find your purpose doesn't understand how it works. Purpose is something you choose, and it is a choice that is based in your black sheep values. It's the activation of your values that actually are your purpose. So when it comes to myself, you want to know what my flock are? This is my flock. I say we all have a flock of 5. I have 6. I spent 20 years as literally living as a rock star with 2 different record deals, 2 different bands. We do everything to excess. I needed an extra. You might also need one. It's okay, right? So here are my flock: creativity, hope, impact, empathy, family, authenticity. Every decision I make in my life gets routed through these 6 things. They either honor these things or they violate these things. My life is pretty simple. It's easy for me to make decisions, right? It's easy for me to act quickly because I have defined what these things mean to me in my life. So when you look at these, when I tell you that purpose, right? Purpose is something that we choose. What I really want you to understand is that my purpose, the reason I get up each and every day, is built out of these words that you're looking at on the screen. That's where my purpose comes from. My purpose, the reason I get up every day, is to positively impact others by authentically providing hope, right? So I want the impact. I want the authenticity. I want the hope. It sounds familiar because I've activated my values into my purpose. My what and my why are in alignment. And when my what and my why are in alignment, it allows me to be incredibly adaptable in any situation. It allows me to know what to say and how to say it in that moment, rather than fumbling around trying to figure out what to do. That is not the time you want to be worried about those things. So when I discover what they are, it allows me to choose a purpose. My black sheep values allow me to use them to provide unique contribution, not groupthink. You want to know what you're worth at work? It's whatever the unique contribution you bring to the table actually is. Unique contribution comes from your black sheep values. It's what you bring to the table that nobody else brings. That's how it works. So we choose a purpose. We use these black sheep values for collaboration and resiliency. These values serve as the glue. Now, some of you, I'm not sure, you might be familiar with something called kintsugi. You might have heard of this before. This is an ancient Japanese philosophy and a way to fix broken pottery. And the legend goes, there was a shogun, in the 1400s that had his favorite tea bowl break, and he wanted it to be fixed. And so he sent it off to be fixed, and it came back with staples in it, and it was ugly, and he just was very dissatisfied. So he handed it to some local artisans, and he said, look, I just want you to fix my bowl. It's my favorite bowl, right? And so rather than trying to make it look like it never happened, like the break never happened, they went out and they found the most valuable resource they had access to at that time, which was gold. And they melted the gold down and they used the gold to repair the cracks. In doing so, they did two really important things. Number one, they actually made the bowl more valuable than before it broke, because now it's laced with gold. But number two, they actually told the history of the bowl. They honored that history of the bowl. I talk to people, and especially high-performing salespeople, all the time, and I know that we like to think of ourselves as unbreakable. We want to be unbreakable. But the real truth, the key, if you truly want to know how to become unbreakable, it's realizing that you're already broken. Instead of spending your time trying to stop things from breaking you, you should be spending your time realizing what's holding the brokenness together. The most valuable thing that you possess in your life, just like the gold was for this shogun, are your black sheep values. They're the most valuable resource that you possess in your entire life. That's what holds our brokenness together. That's what makes us incredibly resilient. I had this conversation a couple weeks ago with a good friend of mine who happens to be an executive at Apple. And she asked me this question, and she said, look, what does a values-driven organization, a high-performing, what does a values-driven organization look like in the real world? And I thought about it long and hard. And the answer that I ended up giving her was, a values-driven organization looks like Pittsburgh. Now, she looked at me like you're looking at me. What the hell do you mean that a values-driven organization looks like Pittsburgh? Well, here's the thing. Pittsburgh has 449 bridges in its city limits. It has more bridges than any other city in the United States. In fact, it's known as the city of bridges. So why do I say Pittsburgh? Because what I need you to realize is that what these black sheep values allow us to do is it starts to allow us to build these bridges between the things that matter most to us and the things that matter most to our clients. And when we start to do that, you start to understand the power that these black sheep values actually possess. And what you're actually doing is building these bridges so that you can use what matters most to you to amplify what matters most to your customers. And when you do that, you avoid the duck bunny problem. You're not asking them any longer to adopt the things that matter most to you. You're using the things that matter most to you to amplify the things that matter most to them. And when you do that, they think you're the shit because you have just acknowledged that you care about what they care about. That's how you have continued sustainable high performance all the time. You're driven by those values. It should look like a city of bridges. That's what your entire network should look like. The interesting part about it is this: sheep farmers who care for large flocks of sheep, sometimes the terrain is really treacherous. It's dangerous. They might have a river that runs through that's got a heavy current. They might have this really rocky terrain, and they have a choice they have to make. Do they allow their sheep to traverse the really dangerous waters and rocky terrain and hope that they get to the other side? Or you'll find what the successful ones do is they build bridges so that the sheep don't have to even worry about it. They go right over the top of all the problems. And all I'm telling you is you have an opportunity to build bridges that are rooted in these values and avoid all of that crap underneath that there's no need for you to risk to go through. When we connect what matters most to us to what matters most to those we serve, we create this bridge that allows what matters most to both of us to go back and forth to this really powerful relationship that we start to form. And it's not about what matters most to me and I need you to care for my sheep. And it's not about what matters most to you and you need me to care about what you. We have an opportunity to share things together. That's really how it works. The last thing I'll tell you before we open it up for some questions is this: the end of the farmer story. While farmers don't value black sheep like the rest of the flock, that doesn't mean that black sheep don't have value. They do in a very specific and different way. Farmers keep one black sheep for every 100 white sheep in their care, and they keep them as a marker. So every morning, a sheep farmer wakes up, he looks out over his flock, and the very first thing he does is look for 5 black sheep. If he has 500 sheep, he looks for 5 black sheep. It's the black sheep's ability to stand out from the 495 other sheep that look exactly the same that gets the farmer's first look every single day. If you want to be high performance, if you want to experience that, you have to get your client's first look every time. The only way for you to do that is to lead with those black sheep values that separate you from every other person on the planet. That's how it works. So Joe, thank you for having me, man. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so now does everybody understand why I'm a fanboy? Right now, I mean, other than Sherry, who really loves your hair, that came up because you were in the zone that was right there. But I mean, you got some fantastic comments in here, right? And so it's amazing. Look, game changer, amazing stuff. We got Larry saying hi, Sandy, but that's totally different and nothing to do with it, right? But love that. We got Natalie out here with the woo, right? I think she was typing wool, but yes. Sherry really, really loves the hair. But I'm going to tell you guys, this was beyond earth shaking to me. So when I went through the book and I went through the stuff, right? And again, you guys know this because Kimberly Slavic and I are friends. Why? Because I went through the book and I did the exercises. And then I followed up what was there. Okay. So my brother said it's worth. Yes. So we haven't heard you play or sing yet, but he's a rock star. Look at the wall behind him.
It's true.
Right. But I sat back and I said, okay, where do you find what gets you going? Right. And then I had to sit back, but I went through the book and in there, he says, write down the movies, write down the music, and I'm like, okay. And I'm scribbling. Right. And because I'm annoying like that, I'm sending him a picture going, okay, I wrote this down, man. I did this. And he's like, dude, 1% of the people do this.
Yeah.
Right. And he's like, 1% is actually going through the book with the intention of coming out the other side changed.
Yep.
Right. And again, we all went into this thinking, okay, this may be something of value, may not be. I started gushing in the beginning. So you went, hey, this is a little weird. Right. But right now you all went, damn, none of you, I guarantee you, none of you that are watching this replay or live are the same person that started the video with us. Right. Because there's a difference there. And so, Amy, you're right. But most people read a book so they can say they read it. Okay. John Watkins wants the high five. Right. Marsja, this is her first meeting. Okay.
Oh,
so she's from Clubhouse as well, came over.
Well, welcome.
Yes, she joined up today. So she's like, okay. But she's already the one that said 29 minutes. She's already shedding skin. I'm pretty sure that makes you a snake, but other than we'll go past that.
That's
but,
right.
But looking at that, right? And
Yeah.
so again, I don't think there is any question we could find because you nailed it. Okay. But look, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that, me bragging the way I do, I had to do 6. Okay. Okay, sorry. Let's add it to the stream. There's me. This was the most manly sheep I could find.
Yes.
Okay? So understand, the first one for me is respect.
Yes.
So I was like, hey, but I'll tell you, the word I didn't see down there was humor in the in the big words. And I was like, and everybody that knows this, it's me. Right. I gotta have the humor that's in there, but it helped me to define what my purpose was. I had no purpose. Okay. Until 50 something, when Brant went into a flipping clubhouse room and I was lucky enough to say hi. Right. And then be a part of that. But that's all I'm trying to say. So my brothers threw out there black sheep for life now.
Yeah.
Amy's going to be a duck, rabbit, snake. She's calling that to Marja. Yeah. So,
well, one of the things I think that is a misconception, there's Simon Sinek wrote this brilliant book called Start With Why. It gained a ton of traction. And listen, I think Simon is brilliant. But I wish there was an asterisk on that book cover, because yes, you should start with why, as long as you know what your why is. But when you don't know what your why is and you begin to pretend like you don't experience the transformation or see the results that you think you're going to see, because your why is wrong. When your why is not rooted in your what, it is not going to ever be in alignment. And that's the thing that I want people to really understand. You truly have to start with what. What are those non-negotiable values? Out of those values, choose that purpose that is in alignment. And that allows you to be incredibly adaptable for how you're going to honor those things on a daily basis. So it's really, think of it as values, purpose, mission, right? Get your values. Listen, our values are pretty much etched in stone by the time we are in our early 20s. They rarely change in our lives outside of a catastrophic event that happens to you. So if the values are static, that means when you choose your purpose, it is also static. Those don't change. So what actually changes, people confuse purpose with mission all the time. And when I say mission, I simply mean a self-imposed task, not missionary, not third world country, not let's go stay in a tent with no running water. This isn't a trip. This is a way to actually perform on a daily basis. Every interaction you have with someone is a mission, and you can either honor those values or not in that interaction. And so the idea here is, when you live with deliberate intention, what you start to do is actually program these values into your calendar. You look at your calendar for the day, you look at your appointments, and you start to write which of these values need to show up for me to have the maximum impact during that time. So when I had this today, if you were to look at my calendar, you'd see three words next to it: creativity, hope, and impact. Those are things that I'm going to speak into existence during our time together. It's not by accident. It's not by luck. I am choosing to make sure I'm incredibly creative in the way that I present. I want to be really, really impactful with the words that I say. And I want to make sure that everybody leaves here feeling hopeful that no matter how successful they've been, there's a different level of success that they didn't even know existed, because they've been winging it this whole time. And when you discover these things and start to live your life with deliberate intention on purpose, the level of success that you reach is nothing that you've ever thought fathomable up to this point. So that's what I want people to get out of this. Is I don't care if you're the most successful person in your office, if you've had more success than anybody else I'm telling you, there's another level once you get serious about your non-negotiables.
Absolutely. And if you guys look at War Games of itself, and why do I search for the right people to come into it? Again, it goes right back to respect. I believe you show up in this room out of respect. Okay. The power authority is mine in my own room. So there I started a group, right? So it hits that one. The leadership is here, education and humor. The only thing that's not there is prosperity. but I believe you guys will be getting the prosperity on this point on the other side. So I just nailed all 6 by holding a room.
Can I add one tiny thing? Because what you're saying is so incredible. And the only thing I want to add to it, and I think you'll agree with me, people think that doing all this work, some people think that it's frivolous. It's like, if you want to go in the direction of your passions, if you want to take that road. But what people don't understand is this work is why we're here. It's literally why we got a skin suit and why we're in the Earth School. And people so many times think that this is just something, it's a hobby, or some people decide to go the path of actualization. But you are one of billions and billions of souls that has the potential to come here and do this work. And when you said you were coming here, you had a purpose. Now, maybe when you came here, you forgot what that was. It was obscured. You went through whatever you went through, right? Through the marshes and not over the bridges. But you have a job, and you've got to take ownership of that you finding what that is and locking on to that true purpose and finding those tools. It's your job. It's your job, and you owe it to humanity to align with that. So I just had to put that in there because
100%.
Yes, everything you say 1,000,000%, but it's not optional, guys. Do it. Like, you have to do this.
It's literally what separates ordinary from extraordinary, right? I'm like, that's what you're talking about. You can choose to ignore it and not do it. But if you want to reach that level of success, if you want to forget about success, if you want to live a life of fulfillment, right? And you can define that however you want to define it. Fulfillment comes from living a life in alignment with those values. And if you never do the work, done, right? That's literally it. I love that, Amy. I think it's amazing. It is incredibly true. And that's the truth of the matter is, of all the work that I do, the thousands and thousands and thousands of people that I've been able to coach, I'm telling you that less than 1% do the work. And it's the competitive advantage. So think of it this way. If nothing else, do it to own that competitive advantage over anybody else doing what you do. It's what will separate you from the pack. That's really how it works.
I agree. So Luigi said, what are the most unusual that you've seen grouped together kind of words? His autocorrect changed Brant to Brian. He was not being disrespectful. So
what I would say is that when people do this work, when they take the assessment, at least for their initial flock of 5 that they land on, what I will tell you is 2 or 3 of them are 100% authentic, and they can give me 20 different examples over the course of their life as to why they're true. But 2 or 3 of them are what I call aspirational sheep. They're not real. They're actually somebody else's sheep, right? That you've been conditioned to care for. Yeah. And so the reason that we track these things, right? We do the work. Doing the work requires you to find proof that these values exist organically in your daily life. And if there's no proof, then guess what? It's not your sheep. I'm not saying it's not important. I'm not saying that you shouldn't care about it. I'm just telling you it's not your sheep. And the interesting thing to this is if we go back, and I use these metaphors with sheep because it's so easy to understand. But the truth of the matter is, after I wrote the book, I was doing a class, and one of the students said to me, "Hey, did you know that sheep recognize the voice of their shepherd?" And I went, "Don't tell me that. That's going to piss me off, because if that's true, that should have been in the book." And it's right. And so I'm like, all right. So I dove in and I did a bunch of research, and what I discovered was this: it's actually partially true. So the truth is that sheep recognize the voice of the person that feeds them. Right. But sheep have very short-term memory, right? So why is that important? Your goal every day when you get out of bed should be to feed your sheep. That's your goal. You got to feed these values. And if you got to the end of the day and you go, "Brant, man, I had a really good day. I fed 4 of my 5 sheep." You don't get it. You don't get it. Right. You would never come to me and go, "Brant, I had a really good day. I fed 4 of my 5 children today." That's not a good day, right?
Amy Lee, did you write that down?
Yeah. You got to feed them all, right? You got to feed them all. But the key is this: they don't all get the same amount of food, right?
Right.
Some days they get a 7-course meal. Other days they get table scraps. But guess what? All of them eat every day. Why? Because you want them to recognize your voice when you call for them, when you need these things to appear in your life. If you're not feeding them on a daily basis, they don't recognize your voice and they're not there to serve you. But guess who is? Those sheep that aren't yours.
Right.
They're looking for food and they end up distracting you from the stuff that's really important, that's going to keep you motivated to do the things you need to do. You're taking food off the table of your own values when you don't feed them every day. And that's why you have to prove what's real as opposed to just accepting what you think is the truth.
Agreed. Fuck. Dude, guys. I'm sure they're all standing in front of their computers or their phones right now. It's a standing ovation all the way around. But I mean, that was a mic drop moment, but mics are so expensive.
Yeah, I know. Yes. It's a mic gently placed moment is what it is.
Right. So that's Miss Edna. So we got to get Edna to go to the StreamYard.com/Facebook and say, it's okay to use my image. But there we go. Brother jumped in. He was able to do that today too. So
awesome.
But perfect. So again, I'm going to tell you, first comment has a link to the book. Get the book, read the book. Okay. Because there's more stuff than what he just went over that's there. So Marcia, she's over here. Like she just needs to go act.
I love it, Marcia. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, she's definitely there. But so again, you guys get the book, go through the exercises, right? When you look at my list and then you go, why will Joe watch Top Gun every time it's on? Why is he watching The Matrix? It's my flipping list right here. Yep. Right. And that's what I said, because there was a bunch of them and I just kept changing them and going back and forth going, okay, can I live without this one? Can I not live without this one? And I got to this and I was like, damn, this sums me up. And it filled me when I read it. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does, and it's why. So what you're describing is, part of the book talks about really taking a look at what your favorites are, right? So there's a reason that we all have favorites, and the reason we have favorites is because when our head and our heart connect, it engages our limbic brain. Our limbic brain's where all of our long-term emotional memory is stored. It's why you can remember the lyrics to Purple Rain written 30 years ago, but you can't remember a single Justin Bieber lyric from today, right? Because no one gives a shit. So the idea here is when our head and our heart really, really connect, it resonates. And so that's why it's a favorite. And so your favorite movies, your favorite food, your favorite songs, your favorite smells, they are all rooted in these black sheep values. That's why it's there. It's our values live in our heart, but they exist because of experiences in our head. And so when those two things combine, you can really start to see the proof. So that's why Top Gun is one of your favorite movies, because it actually feeds all those sheep that you discovered.
Exactly. And like my brother said, I have the need for sheep. I love it. But I think what Farha said was brilliant too, right? So we all want to feel like we're living with deliberate intention, right? But this gives you the practical and a powerful way to actually do so. Amen. And I'm in complete agreement. That's brilliant. And that's your synopsis. Now you can go put that on Amazon
100%
and just go, here you go. This is what it is.
100%.
And I don't want to keep singing, "Oh, baby, baby" right now. So stop it.
Sorry to the believers. It was a joke, believers. It was a joke.
No, we were agreeing with you. We were saying, you mean the 3 words that he uses in all the songs?
Every song. Good. Yes.
I can remember those.
There's the kinship. Yes.
Great. So perfect. I want to be very respectful of your time, Brant. Everybody else, thank you so much for coming by. Again, one of the questions that Marja actually asked earlier, which was, how does she follow you social media? Where does she go find you?
Everything is at Brant Menswar that you see on the screen right there. So every social platform on the planet that exists, that is where you'll find me, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, where all of it. So
Perfect.
happy to stay connected any way I can help. Don't hesitate to reach out. It's me that you get. It's not a team of people. It's actually me. So I will respond to the emails. Should you send them to me? If you have questions, if you take the assessment, you don't quite understand, I'm happy to help walk you through it. So just reach out and I'm happy to do that.
Yes, I know. Farhad took the assessment the other day. I was showing this in a different room, and I was like, "Hey guys, look! I got my big old black sheep here that I put up on my wall." So, because you guys got to keep it in front of you.
That's the truth.
Right? And
That's the truth.
It's got to be there. But yeah, I would say go in. It's on the bottom of the screen, so don't whine. It's up in the actual comments. Go over, find your black sheep, go through the thing. You know what it's going to take? Work. You big babies, we just went through this. Okay, we just went through that. It's going to take work, and most people don't do the work. So don't come to me and bitch that you have to do work. Right? It's completely worth it. Yeah, exactly.
Love it. I love it.
Yes, I love it. Perfect. All right. Thank you, Brant. Thank you,
You're
VIPs
welcome.
that are here. Everybody out there in the Facebook group, thank you so much on the replay. Thanks. And everybody go out and sell something.
And sell something.
There you go.